We've been talking about, of course, the political fallout of the elections in Virginia. First of all, where Glenn Youngkin beat Terry McCullough to become the next Virginia governor. They also won the lieutenant governor's race and the attorney general's race. In New Jersey, they thought that the governor there, Phil Murphy, was going to win by 8 points, but he won. It's around 2.5 to almost 3% there as well. And so all of these people have been talking about, oh my God, it's doom and gloom. You've got Republicans who are passing all of these bills, gerrymandering these districts. Those things are happening as well. So the question is, what is the path forward? As I already said, on Monday, President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, they'll be signing that $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill in a ceremony at the White House that they are already touting as a bipartisan signing, because 13 House Democrats voted for it. And of course, you had Republicans in the Senate vote for it as well. Already, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has talked about how that bill is going to be a godsend for Kentucky. And so the question is, how do Democrats use this effectively communicating with the public? Joining us right now, political analyst Ameshia Cross. Ameshia, glad to have you back on the show. Messages. How you do it, videos that are being put out, in terms of memes, things along those lines. You've got this entire right-wing apparatus that is framing this bill as communism, as, oh my God, the takeover of America, which is literally the dumbest thing in the world, because the Trump infrastructure bill that could not get passed was a $2 trillion infrastructure bill. So what do you say? What do you tell the Democrats on how they need to convince the American people that they are the ones who are moving the economy forward?
Exactly, Roland. And part of this, I think, is preaching a lot of what you just said. What we're looking at is a Republican apparatus that is extremely strong when it comes to communication. It doesn't matter that they're spewing lies, that they are not being honest in a lot of the graphics and the things that they are showing. But more importantly, for Democrats, we keep operating on the defense instead of jumping out there, getting the information out front. I think that what needs to be said is a translation of exactly what's in the infrastructure bill and what that means to people on the ground, what that means in terms of job opportunities, what it means in terms of skills training, what it means in terms of living wage jobs, what it means in terms of clean water, what it means in terms of providing for roads, rail, bridges, and eradicating a lot of what we know and what you've talked about on this show before in terms of the racism that has been baked into our highway systems and our road systems that have blocked African Americans in particular from job opportunities and economic opportunities and housing in places across this country. And those things still very much exist to this day. With that being said, I also think that what we saw Joe Biden do today, for instance, going to Baltimore, touting the importance of this infrastructure bill, this has to happen across the United States. It has to happen in red states. It has to happen in blue states. It has to happen in purple states. They also need to partner with local businesses and organizations. They have to partner with Black chambers of commerce. There has to be conversation with the individuals who help drive and push for the final vote. We know that that came from the Congressional Black Caucus. We know that the Divine Nine played a very significant role in this, and they have to play a significant role as we continue to roll this out as well. And I say that, Roland, because at the end of the day, the Democratic Party is its most willing and most participatory group that gets them to the finish line is Black people. And one of the reasons why we saw such a grave loss in Virginia is because we did not see Democratic appeals to Black voters. If you really want to ensure that there's going to be a finish line that Democrats are going to be able to maintain seats and gain seats during the midterms, then they're going to have to make sure that they are responsive to the Black community and the Black voters. And I think there's a lot within this infrastructure bill that will be signed into law that is going to directly affect the Black community in a positive way. We're just going to have to wait and see if the Democratic Party and the White House can actually get their communication strategy together to actively and effectively be able to communicate that.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. I think about President Barack Obama and his stimulus plan. They built a number of things in Elkhart, Indiana. Republicans won that, and the Democrats did not go in saying, hey, Elkhart, we built this. This is like basic fundamentals. You stamp your name on everything. All of the things that Democrats criticized Trump about, look, all that dude cared about was attention. He cared about getting all the credit. Guess what? From a marketing standpoint, that's what you're supposed to do. You have to sell it. You have to brand it. If you're Biden-Harris, you stamp your name on everything. You let the public know this stuff would not have gotten done if Democrats did not push it. That's how you win the messaging game.
Absolutely. Right now, there is a settlement in Israel that has Trump's name on it that he had absolutely nothing to do with. But he utilized that to be able to tell Jewish people, hey, the Republican Party, the Trump administration is here for you. I think that what we have to recognize, and what the Democratic Party has to recognize more particularly, is that you can't keep touting this bipartisan. You pull people along by their teeth to ensure that you would get some of those votes. But at the end of the day, Democrats were the ones who designed this. Democrats need to go into the states across this country, again, whether they're red states, blue states, whatever, because this infrastructure bill that is going to be law is going to help Americans. It doesn't matter whether those Americans voted for Joe Biden or they did not. This is going to help Americans writ large, and they're going to have to sell it, and they're going to have to remind people of it, and they're going to have to put their stamp on it. They're going to have to be everywhere and consistently talk about this. Every single week was infrastructure week, and we never saw an infrastructure bill. We never saw an infrastructure law get passed while former President Trump was in office. But he talked about it every single week. We finally have something when it comes to infrastructure that the American people have been fighting for the past 4 decades. And it's going to be up to the Biden administration and his acolytes to get out in the streets and have this conversation and ensure that people know what's going on, ensure that his name is on everything, and that these conversations are happening so that people will not forget. It is imperative because the midterm elections are next November. At the end of the day, we all know that Americans have very short memories. It is what it is. You're going to have to keep pressing this as much as possible. Job gains, what that means for states, get out there, have those conversations, be full frontal, because if Republicans were doing it right now, they would take the credit and they would be running with it and running circles around anyone else.
Scott.
Hey, Ameshia, good seeing you again. You know, one of the things that makes the Republicans so powerful in their marketing and branding is they've got a television station called Fox News that's just dedicated to it. And it makes it easier for them to do that. And I know there's some progressive left news stations or cable stations, but none that are so profoundly over the top for Democrats that are unabashed about marketing and branding Democratic initiatives. How do the Democrats rebut that new Fox News channel when they're doing the marketing and branding and the wins that the Fox News channel won't get them for? They'll couch it as a Republican win, if you will. But what more do the Democrats need to do? Because that's a publicity machine for Republicans and Trump that just never stops giving.
You're absolutely right. Fox is literally an arm of the RNC in the Republican Party. That's not news, and that's what they operate as. There is not that equivalent on the liberal side at all. And I think that, as you said, that makes things very difficult. But there are some avenues where Democrats can really make inroads. We saw a lot of those movements with. We saw a lot of those movements across social media. I think that it's still very impactful to have those conversations. But Democrats need to do it where it is not said in these politically analytical conversations. I think that part of the Democrats' issue with messaging is that they talk to the Ivy Leaguers. That is their general audience when they're designing their messaging. And that really, really hurts them because the average American, you know, be it as it may, newspapers are written on what, the 7th grade level? The average American is down to the 3rd grade level. Yeah. They're going to read things in small sound bites.
4th grade.
And it has to be illustrated.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I agree with you.
I don't think Democrats have honestly figured that point out yet. And that was one of the problems with getting people on board with the infrastructure package to begin with. It was not written in the speak where people understood how it would actually help them. And I think that that's one of the things that we really have to do. We have to see it in local newspapers. We have to see it in local radio. We have to see it on local news. There has to be conversations within these community groups. We talked about the affinity groups. There has to be people like the National Urban League and the urban leagues at the local level. There has to be those organizations that are also carrying this conversation out in the community. We seen clergy clergy members do it as well. This has to be a multilateral partnership between the administration as well as those on the state and local level who are going to be trusted messengers throughout the community. That's the only way you're able to combat a cycle that's 24/7 like Fox News happens to be.
That's right. You know, Ameshia, I also think
then. Ameshia,
may I ask another question, Roland?
Go ahead.
I'll be quiet. I also think the Democrats, with these two separate bills, it was just very confusing at the fourth grade level. What was in each bill, what the House was doing versus the Senate, and that's complicated to break down at the fourth grade level. And so I think that was another issue that was misleading and confusing about this great work they did on the infrastructure bill.
It was, and I'll agree with you there. There was so much conflict around what was in one versus what was in the other, as well as why they weren't originally joined together and what was going to be parsed out and what was going to be left. What was left in the bills in general after Manchin and Sinema kind of decided what they were going to stand by and what they weren't. But in addition to that, I think that because there seemed to be, or at least the mainstream media, focused in on these rifts between liberal members of the party as well as moderate members of the party, instead of focusing in on the fact that Republicans never really even came to the table, it really set a stage for Democrats in general, because it looked like Democrats were a lot more fractured than they happened to be when Republicans weren't even coming to play ball at all.
Well, again, that's what happens when you allow the process story to dominate. Ameshia Cross, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks so much. All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin unfiltered video in just one moment.
Are the stars out tonight?
Alexa, play our favorite song again.
Okay.
It's time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Wow, Roland was amazing on there.
Hey, Black, I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared. You dig?